You are sitting at your kitchen table staring at a screen. The number on the screen is a milestone you spent a decade chasing. Maybe it's the exact moment your mortgage balance finally reads zero. Maybe it's a lump sum deposit from a business exit or a sudden windfall. You expect a symphony, a fireworks display in your mind. You expect the heavy, suffocating weight on your chest to instantly vanish. You hit refresh, waiting for the physiological shift. Instead, you hear the hum of the refrigerator. The coffee in your mug is still lukewarm. The neighbor's dog is still barking at the wind. The world did not stop spinning, and you feel entirely unchanged. This is the first lie of financial freedom, the illusion of the immediate shift. You spent years telling yourself that this number was the finish line. You traded sleep, relationships, and peace of mind for this exact moment. But when the finish line is crossed, there is no podium. There is only Tuesday morning and the quiet realization that you are still you. For the first few weeks, the absence of the financial burden feels like a phantom limb. You still flinch when the bills arrive out of pure habit. You still run the mental calculations before ordering a $6 coffee. But slowly the relief settles in, quiet and unceremonious. The floor beneath you has stabilized. A bad day at work is no longer an existential threat to your survival. A sudden emergency expense doesn't keep you awake staring at the ceiling. You breathe a little deeper. You sleep a little heavier. This is the honeymoon phase of financial security. But then something invisible begins to fracture. It starts with the container of your life expanding to fit the new resources. The mortgage payment is gone, so the kitchen remodel suddenly makes sense. The influx of cash makes that luxury car seem like a reasonable reward. The vacations upgrade from budget flights to business class. You aren't being reckless, you are simply filling the void left by the struggle. Financial advisors call this lifestyle inflation. But it's more than that, it's a psychological attempt to feel the wealth. You are trying to buy the feeling of freedom that the zero balance failed to deliver. You quickly learn that a $100,000 car feels like a triumph for about 3 days. Then it's just traffic, leather seats, and the same morning commute. The dopamine hit decays faster than the new car smell. Soon you find yourself on a new treadmill, just a faster, more expensive one. The pressure of surviving has been replaced by the pressure of maintaining. And this is where the real tragedy begins to unfold, the shift in relationships. Money has a specific gravity. It bends the space around it. You didn't change, but the lens through which everyone views you did. You notice it at dinner with old friends. The moment the check arrives, the silence is thick and awkward. They assume you'll pay because you can. If you do, you become the patron. If you don't, you become the stingy rich friend. Every interaction starts to carry an undercurrent of transaction. Your siblings look at you differently when discussing family expenses. Acquaintances you haven't seen in years suddenly reach out with opportunities. Some ask directly for help, a loan, an investment, a bailout. Every no you say builds a tiny wall. Every yes you say builds a tiny resentment when it's never enough. You realize that money didn't just solve your problems, it isolated you. It created a distance that neither you nor they know how to bridge. You start retreating to places where you don't have to explain yourself. You start surrounding yourself with people who either have money or are paid to serve you. Your accountant, your lawyer, your wealth manager become your most frequent contacts. You trust them because their motives are clear. You pay them to care. The relationships that were once based on shared struggle are gone. You are standing in a massive, beautiful house, completely alone. And then comes the loss of purpose. For years, the struggle was the organizing principle of your life. The debt was the villain. Paying it off was the noble quest. The lack of money provided a clear, undeniable focus. Every decision, every sacrifice had meaning because it served the goal. Now the villain is dead, the quest is over, and the calendar is empty. You wake up and the question isn't how do I survive, but what now? For many, this is the most terrifying question of all. Without the friction of financial stress, life can feel terrifyingly smooth. You realize that the anxiety of not having enough was hiding a deeper void. The void of meaning, of passion, of a reason to wake up that isn't tied to a paycheck. Some people plunge back into work, chasing an even bigger number just to feel the familiar stress. They become addicted to the accumulation, terrified of the silence of having enough. Others paralyze themselves, terrified of losing what they've built. They become asset-rich but cash-poor, guarding their wealth like dragons in a cave. They spend their days tracking markets, obsessed with preservation rather than living. The freedom they fought for has become a gilded cage. They have the resources to go anywhere, but nowhere they actually want to go. They have the time to do anything but nothing that feels deeply significant. The ultimate dark side of financial freedom is the mirror it holds up to your face. When money is no longer the excuse for why you aren't happy, what is? When you can no longer blame your job, your debt, or your lack of resources, who is to blame? You are forced to confront the parts of yourself that money cannot fix. The unresolved traumas, the broken relationships, the profound existential boredom. You realize that money is an excellent servant but a terrible master. It is a magnifier. It takes whatever you already are and makes it louder. If you were anxious while broke, you will be paranoid while rich. If you were lonely while struggling, you will be utterly isolated while wealthy. True financial freedom isn't the absence of debt or a high account balance. It is the internal architecture that can withstand the weight of having choices. It is knowing who you are when you are no longer defined by what you owe or what you earn. The people who survived the summit are those who knew what they wanted to build beyond the money. They used the wealth as a foundation, not as an identity, and didn't let the money buy their isolation. If you are still climbing, remember this: the peak is colder than it looks. Don't trade your soul for a number on a screen. Prepare for the silence that comes after the final payment. Because that is when the real work of living actually begins.